All right, peace, y'all. It is your goddess Knispo here to align those chakras. I'm so excited to be hosting today. Uh, it's been long overdue, so I appreciate everybody that is tuning in today. We definitely have been going through a whole lot, and I really just wanted to help hold space for y'all, as well as have some dialogue, have some conversation about some of these energies and some of the things that we have been experiencing in the collective. Um, so yeah, feel free to comment, to drop anything down as far as what y'all are going through, things that y'all want to talk about. And yeah, I'm excited. It's really been a minute, y'all, and I don't think I've ever gone live on YouTube, so I'm definitely here for the vibes. So yeah, let's get into it. So the topic today is healing in layers. And I feel like this has definitely been like a big theme of what we've been going through, where there's been a lot of things that are just coming back up. A lot of things that you may have felt like you might have dealt with, but then here it is coming back up again on a whole other scale of like, okay, so what are we doing? Because I thought I did this already. But I feel like Spirit put it on me to talk about this because I don't feel like enough people accept that just like time, healing is not linear. And I feel like that plays a huge role on what makes people have a lot of difficulty with how they are dealing with their healing process and dealing with their healing experiences or lessons or different things that come up. Um, so definitely want to expand on that because that also seems to be the common struggle that I'm also seeing when I'm talking to people is people having issues with their shadow work, people having issues with their emotional body, their spiritual body, and again, a lot of it is due to things that keeps repeating, things that keep um, coming back up. So I definitely got some channels and some downloads from Spirit too, um, and I really, it was breaking me, cause I was like, dang, I never really looked at it like that, but I'm seeing it even more. I'm seeing it even more, and I'm seeing the importance of why healing has to be in cycles, because even when it comes to knowledge, right? I feel like we understand it, but even knowledge has these layers, right? So even when you think you figured something out, there's always a new thing that comes up that now makes you realize like, oh, I can actually take this information even further. So with that being said, I started going down a rabbit hole on what does healing in layers even really look like and what does that mean, right? So again, looking at it where if if we look at time, right, as like a linear thing, a lot of our expectations again is thinking that healing just is linear as well. So if this is the problem, actually let's start here. If this is the problem, we think, oh, let me just heal this, let me handle this, let me do this, let me meditate, let me do my shadow work, do whatever I gotta do, and then from there we just go to a solution, and then boom, everything's handled, everything's taken care of. But in actuality, it has all these other layers. So when you think you've gotten to this point of healing, what you're not paying attention to now is all this nothingness that surrounds the healing process. So you can have another scenario or experience that comes from this way, or comes from this way, or comes from this way. So it started breaking down into a web to me, to where it's like, okay, so healing can really come to us in like all these different layers, different perspectives, different angles. So then that's when it hit me too, and I'm like, okay, so if all of this is light, right, and all of this is source, then that also means that light comes from all these different directions. Therefore, our healing triggers are also going to come from all different directions, as well as the things that we need to heal is going to manifest in all these different angles, all these different perspectives. So to think about healing in one way and think that all there is a problem and then a solution will be limiting your emotional body. It would be limiting your reaction, as well as it would be limiting your spiritual expansion, because now you're only thinking of it in the same deception that we are taught time. So you're always going to think like, okay, well, if I handle this and I heal this, this should never come up again. But that's far from the truth, because source being source is going to look at all of these things from all different angles and want to experience these things from all different angles. So an example of that too is recently everyone's been doing this thing where they put like a paper against a mirror and they put like an item behind it, and then they press it up against the mirror, right, and they look at the side of it, and you can see the item that's on the other side of the paper. So everyone's like confused, like how is the mirror seeing what's on the other side of the paper if it's supposed to be linear, right, supposed to be flat. But most people's response will be, well, light works in angles. So the mirror sees angles, not a flat surface. It doesn't see it in just one perspective, right? So, with that being said, this is also why our healing process is going to look like that, where even though you're just seeing this flat thing, the universe is actually seeing something that's on the other side of it. So there's going to be other ways that this this healing journey, this healing process is going to be looked at and needing to be processed. So this is explaining even deeper why healing comes in layers and is not just a one-stop shop where you can just go to something, handle it, and then that's it. So then I wanted to play around a little bit, right? Because the download that I had gotten was healing, or the fragments of your spirit that is in need of ascension or in need of growth or healing. I got this download to look at it like lead, right? And then the alchemist saying of turning lead into gold, right? So then the way I was looking at it, the way I was thinking about it was, um, it takes a lot of strength and power and perspective, right, to be able to transmute lead into gold. And then the way my brain works, I like to break things down into acronyms. So I was really sitting here and I was really trying to think about it like, what is an acronym that I can give lead, right? So that, and peace to everybody that's in here in the chat. Welcome in. Welcome in. So when I was breaking down what is an acronym that I can give lead, the first place my mind even went to, right, was technically, because of the way the English language is set up, right? Technically, lead is lead. So even looking at it from the mirror aspect of what lead means, I'm like, wow, like lead is really to lead, right? So then it started going into the rabbit hole, and I'm like, okay, so what's lead? And the acronym that I ended up coming up with for it was Lessons Evolving a Density. And at first, when I came up with that, I was like, does this really make sense? But it does though, because the lead would be that fragment that metal, that light, whatever piece of you within your spirit, within your emotional body, within your physical body, within whatever aspect you want to look at it, right? Um, that lead now is this lesson. It is this fragment, this piece of yourself that is ready to evolve. And in order for it to be seen in the space of revolution or evolution, you have to figure out what it is and where it is, right? But so looking at the lead, right, as a non-physical aspect of your spirit, the lead is always going to be the different densities of, again, what needs to be led into gold. And I was just sitting there like, okay, I hope y'all keep it up with me too. I was just sitting there like, okay, this is really starting to make sense because I definitely look at this alchemic symbology as not just literal transmutation of a metal lead into gold, but I also see that as like what we are here doing on this planet. Like we are here changing the leads, the lessons within us into gold. And what is that gold? The gold is love. So then I was like, okay, what can I make this acronym GOLD represent now? So I ended up coming up with graduation onto love destiny. So let's run it back a little bit. So led lessons evolving a destiny being turned into graduation onto love density. So you are going from a density, something that you are needing to transmute, now into a love density, because if we look at it like love is the totality, right? Love is the highest vibration. Love is the biggest emotion, the biggest vibration, right? Then this journey, this experience is constantly being something that is led into love, taking different parts of you and trying to transmute it into love, right? So I thought that was so powerful. And then I was like, okay, so when you are trying to lead or be a leader, or you're leading, you're trying to lead somebody as well, transmuting somebody from their density into gold, into love. Even if you are just trying to teach somebody how to make a drink, you are helping somebody evolve the density or closed-minded aspect of where they came from now into a more open space where they can now do something they couldn't do before. And then and then I was like, okay, I feel like I want to make like an acronym for leading. So then I was like, I want to keep how I broke down lead, but now add the ing into it, right? So then I came up with lessons evolving a density in navigating God. And even that sparked so much, right? Because God is everything, and we are experiencing source, right, in all these different aspects. So we are helping God transmute and translate itself out of different states of density. And the reason why I didn't want to clarify either what level of density when using the terms for lead is because you can be at a high frequency, a high density, and still need to transmute. It doesn't matter which aspect of the spectrum that you are on. So then, uh, so then with even that, it's like it's just laying it out. Like it's just laying it out for us to really break it down and understand what we're doing. Like we are literally helping Source navigate light. We are literally helping Source navigate um, different aspects or spectrums of lead into gold, transmuting different densities into love. And I feel like it can even be mirrored as well. Sometimes you have to transmute love into density or into its opposite, because in order for you to really understand anything, you need to see both sides. So I feel like that's where now people are struggling with their healing process, because people look at it only in a linear perspective. But even with the way I was breaking it down, I was like, but wait, why do we never talk about transmuting gold into lead? Because lead still serves a purpose. Lead still has reason. It still has something to teach and something to offer. And we have to do everything in duality. We have to do everything um, on both spectrums. We can't neglect one side. So again, I feel like this is where we are neglecting the full spectrum, the wholeness of the experience. And then again, now why people are going to start to feel like they struggle with their darkness, or they struggle with their shadow, or they struggle with understanding things that they are going through. Because when you're only looking at healing as a linear, like, oh, I have to always turn this lead into gold, then how would you learn what the lead really is if your only goal is gold? We have to work on both spectrums. So your opposing healing spectrum should also be turning gold into lead. And I feel like absorbing that, understanding that, will truly help people be more grounded, be more accepting, be more open, be more in a flow state when it comes to their healing journey, and not get upset at being upset, or not get lost in being sad, or get flustered in being mad. You have to experience that too. You have to break that down too. You have to explore that too, in order for you to understand both spectrums and be able to live in that duality. But let's see what y'all talking about. Because lead, the chemical, can poison you, and looking at it that way, is it harmonized frequency? And this is very powerful too, because something that you actually said to me was, when we take herbs and stuff, it's actually a poison to us, and that's what triggers us to detox. That's what triggers the body to detox. So it's the same concept. Like, we can't only focus on changing the lead to gold, when sometimes we need to intake the lead to detox. So sometimes we need to transmute the gold back into lead. And definitely agree. This is definitely why a lot of graduations, the themes consist of some sort of gold. I definitely agree. Like, we always have the answers in front of us. So, but yeah, when I came up with a graduation onto love density, that was it. That was it. But yes, we will be having Subtle Rebel join us in a few seconds, y'all. So if y'all have any questions or anything that y'all want to talk about, or things that y'all are also going through, feel free to drop them down in the chat while we get ready for Subtle to get on here as well. But oh, and then I also wanted to break down navigation uh, when it came to lessons evolving a density in navigating God, right? Leading. When I broke down navigation, I was looking at it from a perspective of like, okay, so when you are trying to go from one point to another, say I'm trying to go from my space to the post office. In order for me to get to the post office, I have to go through a journey. I have to see buildings, I have to see different forms of creation, I have to see other people, other beings of creation. I have to tap into other people's energies, or again, other people's creations. I have to also go through things that nature created, that source created, and experience all of that before I can get there. So all of this is just about either the movement or the stillness of our energy, of our experience, right? So navigation is the key. Everyone's struggling with the navigation aspect of healing. Like, I don't know how to do this, or I don't know how to go this way, or what's the best route for me to take. But there's always going to be many routes that you can take to go from your space to the post office. So you have to kind of look at your healing in that way too. We have so many directions, so many ways, so many journeys, so many experiences, so many people to come along, to come across before we can get to our destination. So that navigation aspect also brought enlightenment to me as far as patience with your process, patience with the path that you choose to get to your destination, patience or openness, especially openness, because I'm pretty sure a lot of us wish that we could just teleport right from your home to the post office and skip the journey. But what would be the point? And why overstimulate yourself throughout the journey as well? The journey serves a purpose. So the more that you bring care, understanding to there always needing to be a journey in order to get your problems from point A to B, or to get your densities from point A to B. So how can you be, again, just open to that, open to that process, open to what it means to go through a journey? It's just that we get so accustomed to our journeys always being outside of ourselves that now it comes back to, again, a problem of navigation within. But it's like, so within, so without. If you was outside trying to go from point A to B, aren't you relaxed? Aren't you able to just, pick whatever route you want to take, whether you want to walk, drive, take a bus, skateboard, roller skate? So treat your healing process the same way. When you go within and you're trying to go through this journey and go through this experience, try to find a routine or a process that helps you enjoy the journey, whether you are being open to other people's creations, whether you are being open to sources creation, and sources creation being like nature or sounds or the sun, right? Or if what would be your equivalent to driving a car within yourself, to find the journey or the path in order to experience what this lead being turned into gold or gold being turned into lead is trying to show you and trying to give you, as far as an experience, as far as a journey. And again, understanding that navigation doesn't always just mean movement, but that it also means stillness. So again, uh, trying to find the proper process that just works for you. But man, this whole topic, everything just really really helping me even break down and understand where I've been giving resistance to my own journey and my own process, because I was overly focusing too on the healing or the solution more than the journey. And again, this is why the journey is a journey too, and why healing happens in layers, because our human brains tend to do that. Like, we just want the instant gratification, we just want the instant sense of relief, the instant experience to go through something and just get out on the other side. But everything is a process, everything is a journey. This is why we are here. If we didn't want to experience the journey, we would not be in a space where time exists. Because time is really what also adds to us having to go through a journey. So I don't know. Let me know in the comments, like, what are some things that y'all feel like y'all are struggling with when it comes to your journey and what that journey looks like. Like, what are some of the roadblocks that you are coming across that in whatever stance that is making you struggle with wanting to be patient with there being a journey, wanting to be patient with what that journey looks like for you. And another thing about the journey too, right? Even going back to the analogy of going from the house to the post office. So other things that you're also receiving while being in that journey is light, insight, messages. Like you might see a sign, or you might see angel numbers, or you're getting some sort of perspective that is being brought into you, that is being downloaded onto you to help you through the process. So this is why it's so important for us to use our creativity and our inner child when doing that internal work. You have to treat yourself in the same way. What would be a journey within yourself through what is happening, the emotions that you are feeling that you can create, the scenarios within your brain that you can create that will help you figure out what you are going through. Like this is why I don't like that in school they try to teach us that like daydreaming is not okay, or even our parents or our caretakers try to teach us to not sit still and just be in your mind or be in your thoughts. But that's truly how you create healing, how you create solutions, how you create understanding. You being able to sit with yourself and create scenarios in your head, that's how you start to break past the blockages or the information that you cannot break down. You have to start to create those scenarios. So say say you are say say you stubbed your toe, right? And you got upset, but then now you're like you're getting confused now because eventually the pain starts to go away from you hitting your toe, but you still feel irritated. What some people tend to do is if they do choose to sit down or write whatever it is that they want to do to try to figure it out, they focus on the actual action. So they're like, why am I so mad at just hitting my toe? Like, and trying to break down the anger itself, right? And then get more frustrated because them trying to nitpick at the anger isn't giving them solutions. It's not giving them answers, it's not giving them perspective. Instead, the route should be, okay, I stubbed my toe, I'm upset. What is this feeling that I'm feeling? I'm not going to focus on it being anger, sadness, happiness, or anything. Let's just try to figure out what I'm feeling. Like, what is the actual thing that I'm feeling? Labels, pull it away. Now, what are the first words that are coming to you? What imageries, what experiences now are coming forth when you remove the titles of anger, sad, happy, love, uh, karma, whatever you are looking at it as? When you remove labels and all you are left with is yourself, what is coming up? And if you are struggling with getting something, now you have to now create a routine, find a routine to create the same types of layers that the healing is creating. Start creating layers of places, thoughts, feelings, memories that are coming up to the surface when you are trying to figure out what this is and what is happening. Now, from there, you should start to think about things and be like, you know what? I think I'm actually mad or I'm upset because I still didn't get over that time that my my friend pushed me and my friend pushed me for saying something honest that they didn't like, and I ended up tripping and hitting my toe on something. So it's like now you are opening up yourself to more than just that moment, more than just what happened even recently. This could have been something that happened 3 years ago. But now you are starting to pull it out. You're starting to backtrack. You're starting to bring up layers. So then now you're like, okay, well, now the problem is actually honesty, right? When you try to be honest, something bad happened. So now it's like, okay, now you are starting to figure out another layer where you're like, oh, maybe, you know what? Maybe this is why when I'm trying to be honest, why I struggle with communication or I struggle with speaking my truth because I still have this memory and this pain in me or this impression from what happened when I spoke my truth and ended up getting a result that led into me stubbing my toe and falling and hurting myself. So now the question would be, okay, so now that I figured that out, right? What are other places in my experience where I felt like speaking my truth brought harm back to me? Whether it was like when you were 5 now and you might have said something to your sibling or your parent or somebody else, and maybe it was too honest and they got upset. So it's like, you can keep backtracking, or you can even start looking at it depending on how much you like to dig into your Akashic records. Shoot, I want to see what happened in this lifetime when I might have said the truth and it might have cost me my life or it might have cost me something. Because sometimes it even goes further, right? Or you can even look at it as far as your generations. Okay, I struggle with speaking my truth. Let me think about my mom, my dad, my grandma, my grandpa, my great grand, my cousins, my siblings. Do they also struggle with that? And is this something that has gone beyond me and has even come from my grandparents, my great grands? So then now let's bring it all back down now to the now where you stubbed your toe and you were upset. But you had all this anger, all these other things that remained after the pain went away. So this is how much we have healing in layers, right? And the reason why when you focus on one thing, why it'll come up again in another way. Or when you even deal with that, why now it'll come up in another way. And then you'll keep telling yourself like, okay, I thought I dealt with this, like why does this keep coming up? So it's like now when you are trying to actively heal without having a trigger, you kind of got to treat it the same way too. When you are just ready to just go deep within yourself, you have to start to look for the lead. You have to start to look for the triggers. You have to start to create the layers. Open up yourself to the layers of who you are and what you experienced in order to now start finding the needle in the haystack, finding the lead in the haystack, and figuring out ways and experiences, imageries, stories. You can even create a story. Just make something up, something that helps you start to unlock and open it so that now you can really start getting to the bottom of it because healing is in layers. So when we when we keep looking at things from just the surface level, we're going to continue to struggle with what is needed to also feel grounded. Or when we don't utilize the layers, we're going to struggle with how we deal with the layers of healing. So, how can we start now bringing ourselves into a space where we get very comfortable with feeling everything, with creating the scenarios and trying to open the layers, look for the layers, seek the layers, and really break it down? Because now, if you overly focus on the emotion, you might distract yourself from the problem, because it might not even be that you're actually angry. Because this is another part of the layers, right? Um, your emotion can start off as anger, right? But because you're overly focused on what you think the emotion is, you're only going to bring up what associates with what you think it is. So this is why you have to detach from the label that you are giving it. Because in actuality, you could be mad at something, but really the root of it is that you're sad because your ice cream fell that one day when you was 5 years old and you was at the park. But because you may not realize what you are suppressing over time, it can actually mold and create itself to be something totally different. So, this is why it's important to step back and now start to visually and mentally start creating the scenarios. You have to start utilizing daydreaming in your healing process as well. Create scenarios until you are able to break it down, until you're able to bring it up, bring it to the surface. When you're only super tunnel vision on just what is happening, you might miss a lot, or you might not be able to figure it out, because then again, you are overly focused on the emotion and not the source of what is happening, not the source of what you are experiencing. So yeah, definitely compare again, like the way you experience your outer world, you have to create an inner world. Because when you don't have a whole inner world that is a literal mirror of what is happening outside of you, then you don't have layers inside of you. You just have a whole bunch of empty space with things that could be stored all the way down that way in your depth, or all the way that way in your depth. But you don't have a structure, you don't have a layer, you don't have lights, you don't have street lights, you don't have cars moving, you don't have people walking through and have all these different scenarios that you can summon out of you that helps you figure out what is happening with you. I know that might, hopefully that makes sense, because to me at least, that's what works for me. Like, if I feel something, I create a whole scenario in my mind. Like, again, if I stub my toe and I'm upset, I'm gonna reenact all the moments that I've stubbed my toe. I'm gonna reenact other scenarios that just come up, like things that just remind me of something. Because it could be, I don't know, like, say now I end up bringing up a memory now where this is a funny example. So, like, okay, me trying to think of a scenario of the sorts, right? Because I was thinking about cars. Now I brought myself to a time where I was skateboarding, and I was skateboarding in the park, and I don't know how we ended up like this, but I was with a group of friends, and they were all walking, and somehow they ended up in front of me. So then I was behind them on my skateboard, and they were walking a little slow. So it was like taking away the fun from me skateboarding. So I was like, all right, let me just go around them. So then I sped up and skated around them, and right after I skated around them, right, and I got a little distance ahead, I tried to slow down, but there was a group of like guys that was like sitting on the benches in front of me to my right side. They started critiquing the fact that I was skateboarding. And so it like I started listening and I distracted myself and I ended up stepping on the tail of the back of the board instead of on the floor to try to slow down. I don't know how, but because I was trying to apply a little pressure, I kind of in the sense stubbed my toe. I don't know how this makes sense, but this is what happened. I kind of stubbed my toe in the process of trying to like go like that because like I just missed the board in trying to stop. Again, I don't know why I ended up back there. Questions that we don't have, answers to questions we don't have. But anyway, I ended up falling flat on my butt. Everybody laughed at me. The guys on the benches, my friends behind me, and I won't lie. Like for a minute, I was embarrassed, and I ended up now carrying with me a sense of being afraid to skateboard because if I fell again, I'm like, everybody's just gonna laugh at me. I'm just gonna stub my toe again and just keep repeating this journey. But the reason why I brought that up too, though, was because as I was thinking of something, like all of those memories came up to me, and then it made me think about like how we create limitation now based around experiences. So I basically decided now to create a cycle. I decided to create layers by now looking at it like, okay, every time I skateboard, there's a possibility I'm gonna fall and hurt myself, and people are gonna laugh. So then now, every time I'm even in the instance to fall, now without a skateboard, my mind goes to, okay, everybody's gonna see me fall and they're gonna laugh. So then now I start creating a cycle of trauma. But even though you can look at that as a negative, it's actually still a positive because you are teaching yourself at the same time how to understand how healing works in layers and how scenarios can build on top of each other to create a whole almost jar of healing, right? A jar of experience. So sometimes we need to create situations because in order for us to gain the knowledge or the information or the enlightenment or the navigation of God, we have to sometimes also create scenarios that we don't like or things that we don't like or things that upset us or things that make us happy, whatever the case is, to now create a scenario or a experience. Because how would you know unless you're being put in a position to be there, right? So again, all of this whole thing now led me to a whole another place from just stubbing my toe. So now look at your healing in the same way. Look at your emotions in that same way. You, if you just keep looking at it from one perspective, you may not ever really realize that you have all these other layers that you can be healing and working on and creating um, in order to get solutions. Like everything is needed, everything is necessary. So it's just a matter of us again finding the routines and the different perspectives and things that work for us. But all right, y'all, we have Subtle Rebel has made it in the building. Let's add her in. Peace, peace.
How's it going? My
Good.
apologies.
No, you're good. You're good.
It's crazy. Traffic was crazy, but I was listening. So I kind of like all came together as I was driving. So, oh no, and I didn't catch that last bit. If you, what were you speaking on before? You don't have to like go over the whole thing.
Oh no, yeah, you're good. I was just explaining how sometimes we even have to create our own healing layers, like our own trauma layers, in
Mhm.
order to help teach us how to understand our own process to how we heal through our layers.
Right. Absolutely. That's great. It's interesting that you said that because I feel like that's how I've operated my whole life. And honestly, that's why I've gotten to where I'm at right now.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's crazy. There's no, I want to say for some of us, I don't know if everybody can agree to this, but there's like that layer of unawareness, that ignorance is bliss piece that
Mm-hmm.
kind of allows that energy to flow so flawlessly. It's crazy.
Right, right. So that's why I feel like this topic was also so important for just what everybody's been going through lately, right? And how I actually started off the topic, I said, just like time, healing is not linear. Because the same way that time operates in all directions is the same way healing does. So our healing journey is going to come to us in many different perspectives, many different layers, many different viewpoints, because it's all different aspects of how source itself is trying to navigate through itself, right?
Right.
So, and also saying that this is why we struggle with healing as well, because we look at a issue and we just want to be like, okay, well, I did this to solve it. Now it's done. I should never experience this again.
Right.
But then when something else happens, we're like, all like, all right, what? Like something's wrong with me now. Now I'm upset. Now I'm struggling. Now I'm like, I thought I fixed this, and you start going into that darkness, right? But I
Hmm.
was explaining how it's important though, because it's important for us to understand that healing isn't just a one-stop shop, because just like I explained, you can come from this way at your healing journey, you can come at this way for that healing perspective for just one thing, because you don't know if you had other times in your life you went through that and built up to that trauma. You don't
Right.
have know if you had generations of people who built up into that trauma and it came down to you. So that's why we have to get more comfortable with not looking necessarily at things always being a cycle, but just
Mhm.
being that healing is in layers and we can't heal it all at once. Like it's just a process.
Right. And trusting that process, knowing
Yes,
that each stage is an elevation, even if you're going 10 steps back.
exactly,
That is a big part.
exactly. And I feel like, um, okay, so like I don't know if you heard this part too, but I ended up coming up with this acronym, right, for lead and gold.
No, I didn't catch it.
Okay, so as I was getting downloads for like the topic and like what we would be talking about and stuff, the symbology that came to me was turning lead into gold, right? The alchemic message, right? And I don't know why, but I wanted to create an acronym for it because I'm like, everything is like so within, so without, right? So alchemy, that saying, isn't just about the physical metal being turned from metal into gold. It's also a representation of our internal, right? Spiritually, emotionally, um, turning different fragments of ourself, different densities of ourself into gold.
Right.
So then I ended up coming up with lead being lessons evolving a density, and gold being graduation onto love density.
Oh, that's dope.
Right? And I'm like, because technically lead with the English language being how it is really still lead, right? It's the same word just pronounced different. So I'm like, even the concept of turning lead into gold is like you the person are leading this metal to be turned into another metal.
Right.
So then I was like, wow, like even that, like I was breaking it down and I was like, oh, I'm excited for this.
Right. That is nuts. That is dope.
hmm And then I don't know. I started thinking about leadership and leading, right? The word leading, and then I was like, even that brought me to like lessons evolving identity in navigating God.
Wait, say that one more time.
I know this was me too when I was saying it. Leading could also be an acronym for lessons evolving identity in navigating God.
Damn. Definitely put that on. You gotta post that. You gotta.
Oh, I'm already know it. I'm already know because I was like, and then so then even adding the gold, right? Lessons evolving identity and navigating God into graduation onto love density. So transmuting that lead into gold by being a leader, by leading yourself to the goal, leading your spirit to the goal is you navigating God, the different aspects of fragments of light within you.
Leading back to that within and without concept. That's crazy.
Right. So I was over here like, hey man, I was not expecting that out of myself, but it definitely did its thing. And then, so then I was like, I want to create an acronym for lessons, and then I ended up coming up with life evaluating special situations on navigating source.
What a life evaluating special.
Special situations on navigating source. Because a lesson is always a special situation that
Right.
comes up.
It brings you right back to source so that you can be still and focus. Right. That is crazy. Wait, did you just come up with that right now? While you
Probably like an hour before we were supposed to get on
um,
here.
that's awesome. That
So
is
I was like, all right, spirit, y'all giving me something to work with, because I'm like that really broke it down. It really helped me break it down even more, because I'm like, even the concept, right, of turning lead into gold. I was thinking like even that concept gives us a narrow mindset, because then we're overly focused on perfection. We're overly focused on how can I turn the
right.
darkness of me into light, right? But what about the opposite? Because we need to operate in duality. So I'm like, we need to start also turning that gold back into lead.
Right. When it's appropriate, learning how to do that without just like de-alchemizing, like being able to where you gotta be able to deconstruct what you're also building up in order to fully know it in and out.
Exactly.
That is nuts. It's crazy because I feel like I'm going through that right now on so many levels. And I had a moment a couple of days ago where I did not know I was like going into that. It's like I'm aware of everything I got going on, right? Like especially on a spiritual level, I think I'm aware, but then it's like someone knocked me right on my ass, like, bro, like what am I doing? And I had a moment where I like freaked out, it spazzed out for a second. You know, all these questions came up because I'm like dealing with family who does, they don't get it. So then all these life lessons are coming back up, like everything that I'm like dealing with and trying to learn, it's all coming right back up. And that's interesting. That is crazy.
Right, because that was another thing when I was trying to like analyze, right? I'm like, okay, why do people really struggle with healing? And what kept coming up to me was that dualistic aspect, where because everybody always wants things to be perfect. People constantly want it to always, like I said, be from turning the lead into the gold, but don't give enough shine and appreciation to sometimes you gotta turn that gold back into lead.
In order to appreciate what it is you're
Hmm.
in the first place. Man.
And that's again why the healing happens in layers, right? Because if you don't know pain, you can't know love, right? So
Mhm.
if you do bring yourself right into graduation of on the love density, right?
Right,
You might forget some of the lessons you had when you was just led.
right,
So sometimes you have to transmute yourself back, and not necessarily going backwards, but just
right,
moving back into that aspect.
right. Okay, real quick, I ain't gonna get too personal, but you're right on point with that. Simply because like I was in a long-term relationship, went through the separation phase of all that, and it's crazy because a lot of that stuff that I was dealing with in that relationship, like I didn't realize I was trying to heal in the midst of like the abuse, the anger, and all that stuff that was happening. And it like, I don't know, it's weird how that works. Like, excuse me, how you're like working through it, you're alchemizing. And me, I'm like, how do you say that word? Mutable. I'm a mutable sign. So
Mm-hmm.
anything I'm going through, I definitely try to work through it. I don't want to like run away from it, regardless of how hard it is. I'm gonna figure out how to take
Right,
that energy, no matter how messed up it is. It could be the craziest crap, and I got to figure out how to keep pulling from it in order to keep rolling forward. And
right,
oddly enough, that's what happened. Is I was able to turn that energy, that darkness, into light. But then also now, I'm single as a Pringle. I'm by myself, and yet some of that stuff, I don't have any idea why, but it's coming up. Like some of the traumas that was happening in that relationship, for some reason, it's coming up, and it's weird, but that makes
right.
sense, you know.
Yeah, because
Like you just
to
said.
some degree, in order for you to heal that thing, right, you have
Mhm.
to go back to that place. But and then this is where I feel like people get difficulty now with the healing process because they want to remain the gold while going
Right,
back to their era of lead.
right,
So then now they don't have the proper communication within that version of themselves to find the problem to actually heal it. So it's like, no, yeah, because you gotta really you gotta go back. You really gotta feel that. So you have to undo yourself to go back and literally relive that so you can see probably all the layers that you might have missed then when you was coming out in that healing journey of what you went through, right? And then
right,
this is why I said this is why healing is in layers. You're gonna have to come back to it sometimes because the perspective could have came from this way. There's another perspective that could have came from this way. To where
right,
at that time you couldn't see all those layers. You could only see the specific layers that you was resonating with to work through and heal that and for people to not get discouraged when you are being brought back to certain
mhm,
situations to heal because it's not
mhm.
about how perfect you can heal yourself. It's about how much are you willing to go through your uncomfortability and go back into something you did think that you figured out and go through it again.
Right. Okay. So does that necessarily mean? So I'm going to use the relationship example since that's kind of what we're leaning on, because that goes again even with like family, friends, etc. Would you say that that means getting back involved, or just actually uh, focusing on those areas that are coming up and seeing what you needed to learn within that moment alone?
More so re-involved in your mind, in your
Okay.
emotions, to revisit the you and re-become the you in
Mhm.
that scenario.
That is perfect.
And having the you in the now be your higher
Mhm.
self because your subconscious is now your higher self, which is you in the present, that's not helping you navigate what you went through at that time. But because I don't know, for me personally, like when I ask people, okay, when you're trying to go back to a scenario to heal it, what is your process?
Right.
Most of the time, they're trying to avoid feeling all the things or reliving it. But I'm
Right.
like, no, you have to really become that again, not go back to the person or go back into the situation, but you need to go back and become the you
Right.
that was in that scenario. But having now the new you now be your higher self, that's gonna help you navigate through that journey, that experience.
Right. Wow, that is amazing. That is amazing. I mean, it's because I'm like, when I'll go into meditation, all that swooning in the back of my head, trying to figure it out. And that's like you just brought literally what I couldn't, it was like entangles, and you just brought it out into the
Man,
forefront.
look, man, when I sat down with spirit and I was like, all right, what are we about to be talking about on this? I'm telling you, the first thing that came to my head was the whole led to gold thing, and I started going down this rabbit hole, and I was like, wow, like there's really so many different ways to interpret this. Like it's crazy, but
And I don't have my notes in front of me. I had a whole bunch of stuff. I could go grab them real quick. I had questions.
yeah, feel free, because
Okay.
yeah, I definitely wrote some notes down, and then on the other side, I put like questions and stuff that I had to.
Okay. Give me 1 second.
Yes. All right, y'all. While she goes grab that, let me know how y'all feeling in the chat. much gratitude again to everybody that's in here and that has been tuning in with us. Because even though we've been going for a little minute, we still getting started. I still have like a whole nother segment, a whole nother perspective that I want us to bring up in here, as well as I do want to do some sound bowls. So we giving y'all the whole spiel right now. Like I'm truly very in much gratitude for today's topic and holding space for this right now because I really feel like a lot of people are struggling with this right now, as well as some of the other things that I do want to bring up as far as like us really getting into the nitty gritty of um, what the energies and everything that we've been going through, like what this all represents and why all of these things are also coming up. Because there's definitely a theme, and I'm so excited to talk about that too and break that down. All right, I'm glad. I'm glad y'all resonating. Y'all getting some ease, taking it all in. Much gratitude and appreciation to y'all.
Ooh.
All right,
Did you go in with your sound balls yet?
I did not. I wanted to
You
wait.
want to use that?
I
You
figured
want
I should just do it at the end anyway, honestly, because after we have all the conversation and the talk, it would just
to?
be nice to just
Right.
bring it down.
Okay. Okay. Got you.
But yeah, I definitely had like real quick before we get into the questions. Um, when I was trying to hone in on like, okay, what is the title of what everybody's been going through right now, and what came up for me was angles and identity.
Hmm.
And when it comes to the identity, I feel like the things that are being brought up was like how to identify your true purpose, identifying what in your life matches that purpose and what doesn't. Acts of service for self, like learning the ways you may need to change or adjust in order to actually realign with your purpose, and
Mm-hmm.
identifying cycles, triggers, and identifying revelations. And then with
Mm-hmm.
the angles, I feel like there's been a big energy of again this layer where it's
Mm-hmm.
like, what are all the other perspectives too that this identity has been either being hindered, blocked, slowed down, or in the different spectrums of like relationships, self, job, career, like what are all the angles that our identity has not been in alignment, like where we haven't been in alignment with our identity.
Right.
Like I really feel like that's what the theme of all of this has been.
Right. And that's interesting because that actually came up. Well, not specifically. Like, I feel like a lot of us, we know who we are to a certain degree, but
Mm-hmm.
let the smaller details, like how family perceives you, how your community perceives you, uh, self fulfillment, success, you let those little details kind of like scramble up what it is you are actually supposed to be doing and not realizing you're actually in alignment with whatever it is, regardless if you got out of bed today or not, and I think
Exactly.
that's a big that's a big part of it. For example, I'm like struggling with the whole religious thing, like trying to separate, not to, and again, like it's beautiful, don't get me wrong, there's beautiful pieces to everything that you can apply to self, but once you become aware at any degree, you have to be able to use your consciousness to elevate so that you can continue to grow forward. So, like dealing with the whole family part of it, how they perceive me. Like right now, I look like a devil worshiper and all this crazy stuff. I'm like, no, chill a little. Do y'all know I'm good.
Right.
I'm able, I'm connected. Like where I'm at right now, I'm actually getting answers. Y'all running around like chickens with your heads cut off, and I'm just here to support you because
Mhm.
I got information. I feel connected. I'm definitely, receiving.
Like that synchronicity, those confirmations from the universe of like you
Right,
getting whatever it is that you need to feel like you exactly where you need to be, doing
right,
exactly what you need to be doing, being exactly who you are.
right. And that I don't know. I feel like a lot of people are going through that right now.
Hmm. And that's why I said I felt like it was identity, because it's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, are we taking on the way everybody is perceiving us and affecting our own viewpoint of our own identity? Are we letting our darkness pull us away from what we actually think is our identity?
Mm-hmm.
And what are the things that we are doing that is making us to identify with something that's not even what we are, just because we acting out of trauma?
Right, right.
So it's like, and that's why I said angles, because I feel like what's being revealed to all of us is all the angles. Because I really feel like the universe is finally like really pushing people to see again that healing is in layers. It's not just a, it's right here and that's it.
Right.
So it's
That,
like, yeah, they're really bringing forth. No, you got to look at all directions. Like, look at how your family is treating you and how that perspective is affecting your identity. Look at how
mm-hmm.
your relationship is going and how that is affecting your identity.
Mm-hmm.
Or even on a positive scale, look at how the people around you are pushing you to recognize your identity.
Right.
Right?
It's crazier. Oh, that's so crazy. It's very interesting. And I don't know how how in tune people are, but if you allow yourself, you can absolutely see it. Like you can see it in the way mannerisms, you can see it in the way that people move towards you. Uh, you don't even have to physically be in their space anymore. That's how evolved we are. That we can literally feel someone's emotions through a screen. We can You type a few words, and I can kind of peep that. Hey, they're not feeling themselves today, or I've said something that's not so um settling with them at that moment in time, or whatever the case might be, and it's amazing. Like it goes real deep. I definitely have experienced some number patterns. Like we'll have to go into that because that was a trip. I'll definitely have to explain that later. But yeah, it's amazing how that works.
Yeah, and then the last few things, I feel like the universe has really been testing us on how much do you truly believe in the things that you stand for or believe in, right?
Mm,
Um, how can you step out of your comfort zone? How can you appreciate the uncomfortable, right? And then how can you accept duality more and be more like a swinging pendulum instead of trying to always be in the middle path? Because
mhm,
everybody teaches us to be in the middle path, but there's no such thing as just being in the middle path. You're always going to tap into all aspects because you need to experience all aspects. And then
right.
the last thing was learning which challenges are there to actually help you evolve versus which ones are helping you to redirect.
Mm,
Because we need to start also looking at our challenges as not just only internal but external. Sometimes things are trying to help us navigate
mhm,
our direction, whereas some is trying to help us elevate so that you're always moving simultaneously and you're expanding simultaneously. But I feel like we always look at challenges as just one route, one way. But it's like
right.
rejection is redirection, rejection is protection. So
Mhm,
challenges aren't always just about how can you elevate and expand, but sometimes it's like you need to be reminded that you are not going the way you need to go, or well, always is the right way, but meaning more so like
yeah,
you're moving away from your identity.
right. Right.
So
You're
I
not
just feel
getting.
like, yeah, like these were all the things that has been coming up for everyone. Like again, like do you really believe in who you think you are, or are you letting your trauma tell you who you think you are? Or do you really think that what other people have to say about you matters, or or what your trauma self even thinks matters? Or are you going to finally start identifying who you really are, and then now looking at the full spectrum of what's around you and letting them go, the ones that don't actually play a role in where you are headed and what you know you're supposed to be, or who you are coming into being.
Right. Wow, that's okay. Because that's, I feel like a lot of picking up that a lot of us are taking our trauma, that a lot of it is the trauma behind our experiences. And now that we're at this threshold, it's like when Morpheus gave Neo the pill, it's putting the rose colored glasses on. Once you make that choice, are you going to settle with it? Anyone who's tapped in right now, if you tuning in, you listen for even a minute, your curiosity's peaked. You decided to go down the rabbit hole. So you can't second guess. You've made the choice to keep going. So there's no second guessing. You choose if you. I feel like if you second guess, that's where the complication starts to come in. That's where other energies can come and take a toll on the experience you are able to have. Especially like in the beginning, I kind of remember having like I experienced, because I know everyone doesn't experience their awakening process the same.
Right.
I feel like I've gone through it like 2 or 3 times now. The first time was definitely like that whole sunshine, happy vibes, I'm free type of thing. And now I'm like,
Oh, you
I'm going through it right now. I mean, I'm still smart because,
darkness.
but I'm
Welcome
still
to
smart
it.
because
She was fucked up. Like,
I'm
yeah,
like, I got
and even that, right? Your awakening journey is also in layers.
absolutely, absolutely, y'all. I don't know when this came up. I don't know if it was on a live you were doing, but when you said that in a way. I'm like, yes, like it just brought tears to my eyes. And I'm like, yeah, like I feel so. It's like a relief. It's like a taking that pin out of the pressure a little bit because you're able to acknowledge you're having that reflection back in that instance. Like you're good, relax, breathe. You're not. If you're still alive, you got it. You're not gonna implode
Right.
yet.
And that even circles back to how you started off when you came in, right? You was like, um, damn, it just slipped my mind. We'll just keep it going. You basically said something along the lines of like, you working through the uncomfortable,
Hmm.
and I feel like again, like that's so important because people only want to experience perfection. And it's like, no, you need to learn to love the uncomfortable. Like, oh, that's what you said. You was like, I don't care how bad something that I'm going through is happening to me. I want to just keep going. I want to
Yeah,
just keep getting through it and still keep doing what I have to do. And I think that part is very important. Like we sometimes we let the disruption or the uncomfortable like um, freeze us or slow us down or stop us. And it's like even though that is necessary, it's not necessary all the time.
right.
Like we still gotta act in a dualistic manner, right? So some of us get way too comfortable with having to always stop to heal. But like sometimes you really need to go through it. You need to feel that pain and actually keep putting your mind deeper into that pain so that you
Mhm.
can start revealing to yourself what is happening.
Right.
Like we have to start loving the process of a challenge and not only wanting to always deal with things through a comfortability.
Right. Or else you're not actually growing. You're not experiencing the whole holistic experience that is healing.
Mm-hmm.
In
And
all
again, both
honesty.
sides are necessary. There's gonna be times where you do need to sit still and pull away to see it, but I feel like everybody's comfortable though in that part of it. But where I'm seeing recently too that's coming up, people are running away from actually going into the pain and running away from like feeling that to its entirety. And then that's why they always end up healing on the surface level. But then when it comes back up, instead of being able to get through it again, they
Hmm.
actually move further away because now they're like, oh, here we go, we gotta do this again. I thought I did it, but it's like, yeah, because you didn't let yourself go all the way into it.
Yes, that reminds me of people you see, like they look so good on the outside, like they're all buff and beautiful. You know, they doing all that beautiful work, and then you have a conversation. It's like you are not.
You start to realize,
Yeah,
are you okay?
we're on the same page right now. Like I'm not go ahead and
Yeah,
that's it's it's a whole process, but you have to be open and opening. It's I think opening up. What opening up is starting to look like for me. I just always picture being in a raft, and it's one of those ones where you're like sitting in by yourself, and the scary part is it's the it just has that little top in it, and you like put your legs through. It's a canoe. Is that a canoe or a raft? I don't know which one it is, but the fact that you have to keep going. That's how I picture it. It's like you have to keep riding that raft, even if you flip over, you're half near drowned. Still keep going, keep pushing, keep making the effort, no matter how scary it gets. Because at the end of it, if you choose to let it keep sitting, it's all going to come to a head, and it's going to look ugly. And I think that's low key. I think that's where they get scary movies from. But that's a whole nother like
yeah,
that. All that energy. I think that's where they get that from is because people have that unsettled energies built up to where once it was time to move on completely and transcend, it didn't, it didn't resonate. It didn't actually leave a greater impression. So
yeah.
it's, you
And
got
then
to just,
it starts becoming a part of their identity.
right. And how they're in their movement, it shows up in their movement, man, everything. It's like, it's very interesting how that works. I'm like, kind of, I'm taking because like the whole opening thing, I just said the raft, but it just looks like you're in the middle. Anytime, if you ever want to use like, or just anybody, you ever want to use like something to really help you open up, just picture emptiness. That's a great way
Hmm.
of actually being open or learning how to open up more, just seeing emptiness. And that's even like when you connect with people, if you can't see them as a blank slate, that's why people like, even with everything, still going to show up how I show up for each and every individual I meet with love and respect because you're a blank canvas to me. You didn't do anything that's going to have me to come, for me to come and meet you where I think you're at versus where you actually are, if that makes sense.
No, that's hitting the head on the nail because again, that's why I felt like the theme was identity, right? Because everything is being revealed for people to see. Like, okay, have I been living this whole time as the version of me who went through trauma, or have I been living life through the version of me who knows that I'm this beautiful, powerful person that sometimes lessons just happen to?
Right.
We start becoming the identity of our lessons, and then
Mhm.
because we end up getting so deep into that and not realizing that we're not our original self anymore, then now
Mhm.
we don't know how to heal ourselves because we're looking at it from the wrong perspective, because we're trying to learn the lesson being the lesson instead of being able to realize, sorry, we're trying to learn the lesson being the trauma instead of realizing that we need to remove ourselves from being the trauma and treating everything through trauma in order to detach from it, to not actually be able to look at it and recognize that, okay, I've been doing this, I've been doing that, I've been treating this person this way, I've been treating myself this way, because I no longer was identifying as an organic being, and I was identifying as trauma.
Right. And that goes back to the inner child. That
Mm-hmm.
definitely goes back to your inner child and how a lot of times, if you don't take care and actually trailing back like me, I don't mind. I love bringing up experiences. Like I remember stuff from when I was like we high, and I'm like, it's good to relive that stuff, even if you're just writing about it, talking about it, because it helps you to kind of like keep bringing it's like you're holding your inner child's hand through the trauma you faced, no matter what, at what level it was, you're holding their hand like, okay, I got you. And some of us, I feel like, of course, we've done that unawareingly. I feel like, especially those of us who are like who are healers and empathic and all that good stuff, regardless of if you know it or not, you are holding your inner child's hand that whole time, and that's why you're in the space now questioning.
Right. And that was something I brought up earlier as well,
Mhm.
where like if you are struggling with figuring out what you are feeling, you have to use your inner child. You have to go within and you have to start creating scenarios. You have to start reliving scenarios so you can start bringing it up.
Right.
If you just want to sit in nothingness, you may not be able to bring anything up because you're only focused on it in one perspective, as well as if it's buried, if you're not used to connecting with that aspect of yourself, you're not going to know how to just bring it up. So you for surely need to use your inner child to get creative, get playful, start just bringing up all scenarios that you possibly can, or creating scenarios if you don't have any, so that you can start triggering yourself to start recognizing like, oh, maybe this is what I'm feeling because when I thought about this scenario playing out, I started to get a little emotional. So you know what? Let me go into that story.
Right.
Let me go into that story real quick. And like for example, fairy tales, right?
Mm-hmm.
Say you're feeling upset and you can't think of any reason or what it could be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Use what you're used to. Fairy tales as an example. Start thinking about, okay, the story of Cinderella. Think about what she was going through. Does anything that she went through starts to trigger you? And if triggers start coming up,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you as a spiritual being start breaking down her experience and how much you want to bet you'll start to see the mirror of yourself in that scenario. Like, oh, so now I'm starting to see back in like when I was 17 when this happened and I was hurt, that I actually suppressed that, and then now it became a cycle that became a trigger that now I'm starting to recognize because now I'm ready to release it.
Right.
So
Right.
you have to get playful with creating the stories in your mind. And
Right.
what I had used to is like, the same way we daydream and we just make up scenarios. You have to
Mm-hmm.
do that too to heal, because if you're only focused on the emotion and focused on what you want the emotion to reveal to you, you may not get that far because the emotion will only have a branch of things that connect to it. But sometimes that's not the root of the emotion of what you're actually feeling. Like sometimes you'll be at anger, but really the root of the problem is sadness.
Right.
So you
Right.
looking at all the angry moments you've had, and you looking and you searching and you trying to figure out why you're triggered right now. You can't find it, and it's because
Mm-hmm.
you're overly focused on a label instead of what the actual energy is representing, which was actually sadness all the way over here the whole time.
Right. And sadness is actually disappointment in reality. If you really look at it, break it down a bit more, it goes into disappointment because the need wasn't met, or what whatever. That isn't that's dope. It's always where you can literally break each point back down
To
and
something else.
you build it back up into the goal.
Right. So, and then that's where the universe gave me that one thing, and I just ran with it. I was like, wow. So we should be turning the lead to the gold, but also moments just to turn the gold back into lead. So it's
Right.
like we gotta just keep doing that and keep pushing ourselves to get creative with how we want to identify the layers of our healing instead of getting submerged in the emotion.
Right. Keep that curiosity, that playfulness
Mm-hmm.
alive.
Because yes, you do need to feel the emotion, but sometimes you gotta play around with it though. You can't just only feel the feeling. You need to correlate it to something and
Right.
actually open it up and also transmute it at the same time, and it not just be you being stuck in like a specific emotion.
Right. But wait, real quick. Okay, so you as a spiritual practitioner, do you ever get stuck? Like, how I was explaining a bit before, where I kind of like got into that. I want to say it was like a gear clog. That's what it felt like. That's the perfect example. It was like I needed to clean the oil out, pretty much. And I'm
It's
like,
actually
have you ever
funny too.
experienced that?
It's actually funny too because I was just about to say too. Let's start rolling out the questions, and then you
Mhm.
took me with a question. So I absolutely get stuck.
Okay.
There is plenty of times that I've gotten stuck, and and it's always been challenging when I get stuck, because then what I start to do is start to self blame,
Mhm.
because instead of getting to the point, I'm like just going in circles around it. So then I'll
Mhm.
start to self blame and be like, oh, it's really just your fault that this happened this way, because you should have just did this way, or you should have thought about this and dealt with this way, um,
Mhm.
and just start blaming myself. But in actuality, because I'm more focused now in an area that I shouldn't be. But
Mhm.
the self blame is necessary too, though, because then it ends up bringing me to a different perspective of what the actual problem was that I wasn't seeing before, when I was looking at it through the lens that I was at that point.
Right. That's okay. So I want to say I've worked on it a lot when it gets stuck, but this last time I think it's because they're meteor nuggets. You know, it was harder to work through this time because I'm breaking through that birthing process is what I called it.
Right,
Um, Kai was able to because I was like freaking out and I thought I needed like a whole session, but he just broke it down. He's like, well, what are the questions that are coming up? So I just listed them out real quick. And he was able to like narrow it down to like, no, like you're over a lot. I guess he said a lot of people, he's picking up on that energy a lot too, that a lot of people are getting so caught up in what are actually minor details when you look at the work we're doing. When
right.
you actually look at it like it's just another progression into the next step forward. It's not something that you really should get hung up on. And it was horrible. Like that look, I don't know why that was so it was like anxiety, like it brought that much anxiety physically and mentally to where I was like, damn, I wanted to just sit in a corner for a second and ball up. But
Yeah,
lo and behold, you'll have moments, and I'm so grateful to where you meet people who can now again refract back that energy to help pull you out. Because sometimes you might not be able to pull yourself out. Because I've been pulling myself out for a long time, but once I'm realizing source is allowing us to connect slowly but surely with people who can, hopefully help you just even if it's the tiniest amount, pull you up, like you
right.
good.
Even the people that hurt you, sometimes they're sent to help you navigate and bring it up.
Wow. Okay, I didn't think about that.
Right, because okay, so like what I said earlier, right? I was saying, look at your healing journey the same way you look at the outside world, right? So, for example, if you are trying to go from your home to the post office, you have to go through a journey in order to get to the post office, right? And I said that journey will be from um, seeing things, receiving light, receiving insight, messages, activations, other perspectives, traveling through other forms of creation, traveling amongst other versions of source, um, meaning like trees, the street, people,
Hmm.
animals, actual signs, license plates, right? You have to literally go through this whole experience, right,
Hmm.
before you can actually get to the post office. As well as there's many other routes that you can take. You can either take the direct route, you can go over here to the chocolate factory and then come back to the post office. You could go this way, go to the beach, and then go up there to the store and then come back to the post office. There's so
Hmm.
many there's so many routes, right? So
Right.
now compare that to your healing
Hmm.
and the internal. We have to start finding all these different routes, all these different perspectives that we can
Hmm.
also take to learn these lessons. So one of them would be, sometimes you need to get hurt by somebody in
Hmm.
order to bring up an emotion or bring up a trigger that you couldn't identify by yourself.
Wow.
And it took that person triggering you and hurting you in a very specific way to
Hmm.
give you a path now that you can travel down to now
Hmm.
get to the result of something that you couldn't find yourself.
Wow,
So
that's like your pain is actually your key or can be a key because a lot of people we got to be mindful that that's something I've been, especially as I've been hearing that more and more. And I don't know if it's just the people I'm around or what, but the whole idea of I didn't have to experience that. A lot of us we are hard headed, so our path is different where we have to experience certain things. But how does that make us any less equipped to handle the task in front of us? You see what I'm saying? And hearing that so much I'm like, but at the end of the day, I actually feel more equipped to handle something because of the experiences I had versus where you feel the need to compare. Now I'm just going to show up and show you how, how much I can do based off of the fact that I've endured this much pain, which is my key. Pain, it can be your key, and people need to understand that. Don't neglect that and don't run from it. And I'm not saying enjoy pain because that's not healthy either, but just embrace it for what it is. Allow it to be what it needs to be, just like you will allow any other emotion or experience to be and keep it moving.
right. And Kai said with him is too much correlation and not much feeling.
Mm,
So for me, it kind of comes back to like how people even perceive chakras, right? They'll be like,
mm-hmm,
oh, you have to unlock your chakras, like you have to spend your lifetime unlocking your chakras, but it's never closed.
mm-hmm,
It's been open the whole time, right? But what we are here doing is uh, unblocking blockages that we picked up along the way in our journey, as well as picked up along the way in our star travel or wherever we've been.
mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's also just a perspective. We all feel differently. We all experience differently. So I, I, in my perspective,
Mm-hmm.
I would personally say you've been feeling the whole time.
Right.
But how you identify the feeling or the emotion is what needs redirection
Wow. Or how you connect with it.
and how you connect with it, right? Because everything always comes down to perspective.
Mm-hmm.
We're never not doing something, we're never not experiencing something. It's just your perspective. Like you could like somebody could be being gifted money all the time but doesn't know how to feel rich,
Right. That's a big one,
right?
especially that's like a issue right now. So
So
being able
that's
to.
like I don't know why, but like that's coming to mind too, right? So okay, let's try to break that down. If
Mm-hmm,
you are constantly being given money,
mm-hmm.
but you can't find a way to connect to what is being received in order to actually feel the richness, and not that's speaking literal because we know money don't make you rich, but just as an
The
example,
abundance flow.
the abundance flow rate. So what would be the disconnect that even though the abundance is flowing to you, even
Mm-hmm,
though you can see it,
mm-hmm.
what would be stopping someone from feeling it?
It's crazy because I'm gonna be transparent. I literally felt like you were speaking to me on that one because that's my issue. Like I kid you, I
But
kid you
let's break
not.
it down because then now we got an example, right? So, because, okay, what comes to my mind is not being open to receive,
Mm,
being one of the things, right?
mm-hmm,
Because in order to accept something, you have to be open to take
right.
it. So that's why to me it's like it's not that you don't have it, maybe it's just the perspective of
Mm-hmm.
how you are looking at it. And then maybe if you shift the perspective, then it will all flood in, it'll all flush in.
Um,
Oh, you're muted.
I don't know. And it's funny because I always run into that. I've been thinking about that a lot lately because it does. I've been, like I'll literally sit and do like manifestation work, and being now is things are coming like a lot more. I want to say more fluid than before. Like before, I just got get stuck and not know how to move through it, but now it's like trying to pair the two.
Right.
It's like trying to accept the fact that abundance is right here. What am I not? It's I don't know what the barrier is. I don't know if it's like, am I hung up on? Is it guilt? Could it be a guilt factor that like uh, I kind of feel like it might be guilt a little bit, is because I've come from a background where nobody really had a whole lot. So then, but I was
So
we're
do
so
you,
content.
are you saying that you would feel guilty if you were able to get to it because nobody else had it, or
Yeah, that's what I'm starting to think that it's guilt, like underlining, because I don't understand what else would be stopping it. Like
yeah, I feel
I'm really abundant most of the time.
right. Okay, so another thing that came to mind is like again, I feel like it's already there, right?
Hmm.
And it's just a sense of denial. Like you are denying yourself the ability to receive it. You are
Hmm.
denying yourself the ability to feel it. It's not that you can't, it's that or you're not able to, it's just
Hmm.
you're not allowing it. So then but then again, what's still the block? The actual block that is stopping it from you being able to connect to that feeling or experience the feeling.
Could it be movement? I don't know. That's something I would definitely have to think about because that's wild that I can't pinpoint it. I'm wondering, is it movement or procrastination a little bit? Because I'm like, it's there. Like you said, it's
It's
there, but
right. It's already happening. It's already an experience.
mm, honestly, I think I'm going to go back to the mind. I think I'm allowing myself not. I'm not giving myself the chance to experience it. Like I just take it for what it is, but I'm not actually experiencing it. It's sort of like disassociation in a way. Because like you
And that's why I was saying like it's like almost like a denial. Like yeah, like you like in order for you to because it's like I'm sorry, I'm like kind of all over the place, but because it's like yeah, okay, if the thing is already there
hmm
and it's touching you, you are touching it. It is a part of you. You are a part of it.
hmm
The only thing I could think of is that you are just not allowing. At that point, you're just not allowing it to be.
right, but I can't let that remain an excuse. So because
Right.
I thought it's an
It's
excuse at
like,
that.
okay, if I know I have this piece of paper and I can feel it on my hand, but to actually like tune into it and feel it, it's like I would have to surrender to it.
Mm,
So to some extent, again, I feel like it's a self denial. Like you're not allowing yourself. It's not that you can't. You just refuse. You're refusing to. But you've probably buried that aspect so deep that it doesn't even feel like you're saying no. It just feels
right.
like a block. But that block is really just you still telling yourself no. I don't want to feel this. I don't want to experience this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it comes back now down to fear.
Mm-hmm.
The fear is putting you in a state of disassociation because you have now disconnected because of how much you don't want yourself to feel something.
Right. So
because
how would you surrender to something like that? Because it's not. Because I think that's probably part of the denial is like thinking that you're doing something but you're actually not.
right.
How do
And
you
so you're
surrender?
thinking it's something else, but sometimes the answer is really simple. You're just not allowing, right? So okay, so let's bring it back to you with the money, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so think about money and tell me the first word that comes to your mind.
Spend.
Okay, and how do you feel when you spend money?
I'm guilty
Why do you feel guilty?
because I feel like I could have done better with the opportunity.
What would you be missing out on by doing that? What's the opportunity that you would be missing out on?
Growth and experiences.
Why do you feel like you can't have growth or experiences if you treat yourself to the things you need in the moment?
Mm, because I tend to feel like they're extraneous. Like they're, it's like extra stuff that I could have put elsewhere, especially because I have like other responsibilities and family to take care of. It's like, I've always been like that. It's annoying. Where, I feel like gotta
So
keep.
you are associating your spending with uh, priority.
Yes.
But why does the priority matter?
Mm, because then if I didn't take care of them, I'd be back to square one.
But what's wrong with being back to square one?
Um,
Why do you not want to turn your goals back into lead?
because I don't know if I could experience that again. Like in a physical sense, like mentally, it's weird because some of that, just even thinking about it, it takes me back to how I felt. And in those moments, although I was grateful, I'm like, I don't want to go back there because I know what that was like. It was a lot of ripping and running, and I don't want to get complacent, of course, but at the same time, I don't want to have to live the hustle and bustle that sort of grind to where nothing at all is for certain.
So you would basically say that the reason why you limit yourself then is because you're living in the fear of going back to a place where you had to struggle.
Yes.
So you are actually operating out of a space of fear and not what you actually want, which is
Right.
abundance. So then that's why when it comes time to feeling abundant, you don't
Mhm.
allow yourself to feel abundance because you're more focused on what would happen if you don't prioritize yourself in order to stay in that flow to avoid
Mhm.
going backwards. But see where you're losing the capacity of like trusting though that you can
Mhm.
still spend something and still stay where you at without going back.
Right.
So you're constantly living this cycle of like you're not. That's why you're stuck because you're not allowing yourself to go past that. You
Mhm.
still believe that you can go backwards.
But in reality, I can only go forwards. What the fuck? That is nuts. The
And
mind is a fickle beast, I swear. That is nuts.
but the thing is too though, because I was like that too.
Hmm.
And once the pandemic hit, I didn't have a choice but to go back to live in a reality like that. But
Hmm.
this time, I wasn't in struggle though. I may not have had my own apartment anymore, but I was
Hmm.
still put in a place where I could focus on myself. I could heal myself. I had the time to heal myself. So even though I didn't have these material things that I had worked hard to go away from and still
Right.
ended up back here, it still actually ended up happening in a perspective that was different than the first time. The first time was just me being couch hopping and being in a struggle state, in a scarcity state. I'm
Hmm.
angry, I'm sad, I'm disappointed, I'm messed up. But then
Mhm.
when it happened the second time around, I'm actually able now to heal all those things. So it's like I was brought back to the same place, but able to look at it from a new perspective and be in a new perspective where I can still get my food, my bills, continue my business, and I'm actually growing. So
Right.
that's why I said, why are you scared to go back? Because what if going back actually helps you go forward?
Right. And again, even though it's funny because I'm experiencing those emotions all over again, but I'm in an elevated space, the elevated.
And
Well,
that's why I was saying, because you still need to go back to that place. If
right.
you are being triggered, you didn't heal it.
Right.
If you didn't heal it, how can you break the blockage if you didn't finish what you did before?
Right.
So it's like,
Well,
in order to start connecting to that feeling, you have to let
mhm,
go of what was holding you back to begin with. The fear of
mhm,
even being back there, as well as the emotions that you
mhm.
left behind and never took care of. So then now I'll ask you again, what is the first thing that comes up for you when you think about money?
Now the word abundance came up. It took a second, but now abundance came up.
Exactly. So the blockage wasn't a real blockage. The blockage was self avoidance.
Mm,
And you putting your belief system in the past versus being present. Because, and that comes back to like what I was even saying on here, right? With the angles and the identity. What,
mhm,
how to identify your true purpose. Identify what in your life matches that purpose and what doesn't. So that was what doesn't.
mhm.
You thought you're over here living in your purpose, but when you actually think about it, you wasn't. You was living in your trauma.
Wow.
And then you're constantly trying to figure out what the blockage is, but it's like, but you're not going back. That's what the blockage is. It's not that the abundance isn't there, or that you can't have the abundance, or the abundance is not accessible to you. Your
Mhm.
mind is still in a situation that you've been out of.
Right. So I need to face it. I have to actually sit with self and face it and dissect it. Wow.
So
Yeah, because
do you feel more abundance? Do you feel like abundance is more accessible?
most definitely. Like, and it's not even in a sense of like before, it was like the end game. It's like that whole that's the target. But now it feels like
But
it can
that's
be
not
more
the
of full
target, right?
circle. Right.
Your target is not to avoid. Your target is to move forward. Your target is to be the abundance, to gain the abundance. So if you're struggling to that hard to feel
Mhm.
something, it's because you didn't finish what was already happening, what already happened to you.
Wow.
And again, it's not that the abundance and the emotion and the feeling isn't there. It's just
Right.
you're not at a capacity to take on new emotion because you ain't dealing with the old one.
Right. I wonder because I kind of had a question along those lines. So I'm kind of like it's still in the same space because my thing is I'm family oriented to a T. Like we could literally go through the worst and I'm still gonna ride for you. If I call you my family, I got you. And what that looks like to me is I'd literally put my life on the back burner to make sure you're good. And not to say that that's healthy because I'm paying for it now, but I'm also getting to have the space and opportunity to correct it. So I'm wondering if that in itself, because that's how I operate. And this is, I mean, anyone who can relate to this, please feel free to take from what's being said.
Mm-hmm.
But because that's how I operate, I'm wondering if that can also put in a space of lack because of how my family moves. Can that then bleed over into my cup and
Yes,
make it
because
where I
I
feel
personally go through that as well. And
okay?
I had to start taking responsibility for the fact that I no longer looked at my abundance for me. I looked at it as I need to make all this money so I can take care of X, Y, and Z for that.
Right. Mhm.
But that's not my alignment. Just because I'm willing and able to offer help, that's not
Mhm.
my story.
Mhm.
So I started bringing abundance back to me once I was like, you know what are my goals? My goals is to open crystal shops, do this, do this, do that.
Mhm.
So my focus, my intention should be on that. Those things are going to get taken care of on my way to that. That
Right.
doesn't need to be at the forefront of my goal.
Mhm.
It's just a side branch that comes with it. But I have to stay focused on what I'm looking at. I'm not supposed to stay focused on the what's the word I want to use? I don't want to call it setbacks, but I don't want to focus on somebody else's lack when
But
I'm
in terms
thinking
of
about my future and when I am creating my future. Like
right.
like yes, I'm still going to do that, but I
Mhm.
should be creating from a space of abundance and not lack.
Oh my god, that's crazy. But it's like, how do you move if you're aware of that? Because that question's been coming up as well. Because I'm like physically obligated in certain instances where I feel like I necessarily, it's enough of us to where I feel like I should get the time to focus on myself because of what I believe in is so tangible. I feel it in the palm of my hands. It's here. Like I definitely do. But it's like if no one else is going to do the job, I have to do it.
No, of
It
course.
doesn't make sense. So how do you? It's that balance for me that I'm struggling with. How do I find the balance to keep doing that? Because this has been a lot of, life. This isn't just something
Right,
that just occurred. It's life.
right. I would say, at least what I feel like is starting to work for me is again that thing still exists, but
Hmm.
I'm taking it out of my focus, out of my focal point.
Hmm.
So it's like even if I physically have to still go do something to do something, it's
Hmm.
not. I'm not mentally, emotionally, and spiritually though making it a priority.
Hmm.
It's kind of like when you work a job, right? But you're
Right.
saving up to go get a house.
Hmm.
You shouldn't take that job as serious and let it affect you personally because you know the end goal is just to help you get something else.
Right.
So it's kind of the same thing. Like you're putting too much energy into the task at hand, but not
Hmm.
and taken away from where you need to actually be putting your energy, which is into what you want to do.
Right.
You're giving away too much power to that when it should
Mhm.
just be like a little sprinkle of something that you're still actively doing, but that shouldn't be where your focus is.
Right. That's interesting. It's just funny how the lines get blurred. They get so blurred, especially when it comes to stuff as sensitive as family, home, all that good stuff. How you don't know how to like decipher it, or have moments. I don't want to say entirely because it's not always been like that. There's times where I think you can gain from those instances for sure, but like now, there's a time where I have to pull the energy that I'm allowing to feel one thing, go into what's actually going to fulfill everything I'm actually gunning for. If that that's nice.
And that's where it's just more mental, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what's happening is you're kind of moving in autopilot.
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of letting the situations control your energy
Mm-hmm.
instead of you controlling your energy. So either you can go take the trash out and be mad that you got to touch the trash, smell the trash, go to the trash area, experience the other trash, or you can disconnect from it and just know that it's just a little simple thing you got to do real quick and not let it personally affect you.
And keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
Just,
Because it really just keeps coming down to what you're giving your energy away to and how
mm-hmm,
you're perceiving that thing. That even like you're not even recognizing or seeing how you're just dispersing energy into it. You're just looking at it as like, well, this is something I have on my list of responsibilities, so I have to, like, you're giving yourself to it. But you don't
mm-hmm.
have to give yourself. You can just, you know,
Be present.
helplessly just do it, but you have to remain present in you though.
Right. So keep the, it's sort of like, hmm, I get it. It kind of reminds me of that whole, again, going back into the Avatar, not Airbender, the blue
The blue
people.
ones.
Yeah. How they had their physical human body, but then the minute they transferred that energy into their actual avatar, they ended up having these whole other experiences because they allowed themselves to be present in that moment. And it's like that's something I definitely have to practice. I'm definitely gonna practice trying to
Right.
separate. Just I feel like that also goes along the lines of boundaries. And again, with the healing process, having boundaries within knowing where you are, being able to actually be being present within yourself is having the boundaries throughout your healing process to respect, like, hey, I'm right here right now. I might not be able to do that. Or I'm
Right.
right here right now. I only can do but this much right now. So
Right.
you're still providing for the next, but you're still filling your cup at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So 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 then now again when we come back to like the basics, right?
Mm-hmm,
We are energetic beings
mm-hmm,
that are in a physical body. So now
mm-hmm,
that means the way we process and utilize energy is not the same way as if it was just energy. So we
mm-hmm,
have to recognize that it takes different levels of energy to produce the actions that we need to do day to day. So when we are not taught how to manage our energy, we won't
mm-hmm,
realize how much we are actually spreading our energy thin, just doing regular day to day things, when we
right,
actually have the capacity to keep it stored and actually change and maneuver the way we go into autopilot.
mm-hmm,
Because I look at autopilot being in two ways, right? It's like you can be in autopilot where everything just happens to you and you're not really present, as
mm-hmm,
well as I can see where we can figure out how to use autopilot to our own capacity
mm-hmm,
by not allowing our our vessel to be utilizing energy in an autopilot perspective,
right,
like having control but not being in control of the autopilot. Like we have to learn how to even puppeteer that to where it's like, again, figure out how to not be in autopilot where you are out of control, but
mm-hmm,
utilize autopilot in moments that you need to conserve energy
right,
without autopilot having control over you,
right.
because
So,
now you're using autopilot with boundaries. You're using autopilot with protection layers. You're utilizing the autopilot with intention
right, and awareness. That's
and
like one of
awareness.
I thought having that awareness is key because I'm definitely been one of those people who have done so much stuff out of.
So, how do you be fully present throughout your healing if you have sixth and seventh chakra blockages, which is what allows you to stay present?
Hmm,
Um, I would actually say it's your Earth Star chakra that allows you to stay present.
hmm. Where is
Because
that one?
I feel as though the sense of being present in this experience deals more with the planet than it really does with us, because we're not from here. Oh, you said perceive the present. perspectivize the present.
Hmm.
Okay, that is a good question. Give me a moment to download. How do you be fully present throughout your healing if you have sixth and seventh chakra blockages, which is what allows you to perspectivize the present? Honestly, I feel like I'm still coming back to perspective actually being when it comes to perception. I actually think that the issue is because we're most invested in the heart chakra and not the upper chakras, because the heart chakra utilizes both aspects and should be utilized because majority of this experience is green. Majority of this experience is earthly plane. So the heart is what allows us to transmute the up and the low. So the real mind is the heart.
That's funny because they brought that up last night. The idea that that the heart has its own thinking
Mm,
system or thought system. I
right.
just believe that because if you really give yourself a second to actually think about something before you do it, you can feel the answer come from
The heart space.
right. Like absolutely, that's interesting. I want to look into that more because I didn't hear about that until last night, but it made absolute sense in the moment.
Right. If your heart chakra is also blocked, that just means that you will have to make mistakes to find the triggers that you need to unblock until you get to a point of awareness. This would just mean that you have to go through a trial and error period until you clear the blockages. So you will have to accept that you are going to again make mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
probably make the wrong decisions. Like you'll have to experience the wrong side so that you can start to feel what the right side feels like. But you would only know what the right side feels like unless you know what the bad side feels like, or the wrong side, or the side that is out of alignment. But
Mm-hmm.
there's no avoidance of that. Like in order for you to actually fully experience the mind of the heart and be able to actually live your life now through that perspective, you have to fuck up a
Mm-hmm.
lot. You have to do what don't make sense first and what doesn't feel right, like, or what because okay, trying to navigate through your heart space and you haven't cleared it yet, you're not going to know right from wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what you think is right might be wrong, and what feels like it's wrong might be right. So you're gonna have to be put in a lot of uncomfortable situations through you making decisions and choices and action that you perceived was right, so that you can now figure out how to recalibrate your heart space and unblock it, so that now you can start operating out of an unblocked space, as well as a properly open perspective, to where now your wires are finally put back to where it needs to go, and now you actually can move forward from that open place. But you definitely will have to navigate first through mistakes, through trial and tribulation, through hurting yourself first and foremost, because the only way to unblock your heart chakra is through pain. through loss, through through disappointment, through fear, and going straight into it. And your mic is muted.
Yeah, I was gonna say I absolutely agree. It's funny because I kind of that in that instance, some people might find that kind of also escaping, but it just wouldn't resonate well in the beginning. But if you keep pushing yourself slowly but surely, if I gave you a list of the disappointments of life, you would absolutely see like, hey, that's why she's able to still show up the way that she does. Because trust me, that's a learned trait. It's definitely a learned trait. And again, it goes back to that whole inner child thing. Because as you were speaking, like for some reason, it brought up that whole. I don't know if you've ever that heard of that book or watched the movie, but that story, A Child Called It. That little boy, how he was able to go through all of that and still at the end of the day say that he loved his mother. That's because of just look at all of that. Could you imagine going through all of that turmoil as a child, even, and not understanding why half of it's happening? And
Yeah,
yeah, you're able to still show up at the end of the day and say you have love for this person who couldn't even associate love when looking at you. It's a learned trait. It's something you have to be able to. That in itself is surrendering because
yeah,
you're going to surrender multiple times to different things. And
yeah,
that self love is a big thing that we all definitely have to eventually learn how to surrender to in order to be able to operate from a space of wholeness.
right. And so they said, so I have to be okay with getting hurt and hurting others because that's the polar opposite of the heart space. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to now look at your heart space as your inner child. The child is in full curiosity. It's gonna try to go touch fire and not know that it's hot in order
Mm-hmm.
for it to learn that it's hot, right? And that it hurts. So it's like, um, yeah, we you have to experience the pain. The pain is going to expand your emotional intelligence. The hurt is going to expand your emotional intelligence because then now you're gonna know what you like and what you don't like, and then that pain is going to now give you the path to what needs to be healed or how to, like she said, surrender to it.
Mm-hmm.
But this is something that I feel like gets avoided a lot too in the way that we are brought up, right? Because if you have like overprotective parents or if you have a very introverted personality and you don't spend a lot of time around people or being social, now you're gonna not really give yourself too many experiences to be able to learn that, right? Because if you spend all the time by yourself, or if again if you're overprotected, because that's how my mom raised me up. She was very overprotective, so I didn't spend much time with like all my friends, or I wasn't dating, so I didn't really start dating until like after like everybody's already like gone through their teenage loves, and I'm new to the game. Like, so what do we do here?
Right, feeling like a whole Martian, trying to play catch up, understand what they're going through, all these experiences, and even it's crazy because I'm actually. Oh my bad, I didn't mean to cut you off. Like it's just I've been. Uh, oh, you said go ahead. You go finish. Okay, my bad. Just thinking about that whole like that sheltered aspect, that whole part of life, and then like when you finally get old enough to where you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this. Do you realize how many times you are gonna get jacked up? I swear, I felt like an animal who just got turned loose and didn't know how to. Now it's very very real, especially because the world is a crazy, 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 crazy place. And then if you already live in la la land or whatever you want to call it, you in a rude awakening. So it's better to embrace it where you're at. If you can, especially if any of y'all are younger, please pace yourselves, embrace it,
Mm-hmm.
and enjoy it, but know you will get hurt.
Yes.
And don't approach the hurt with fear. Just
Mm-hmm.
be what it is in the moment.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And not saying that you have to go experience like 1,000 people, like go into all these events and talk to 1,000 people. No, like it just means more so like you are, again, you're gonna have to step out of your comfortability. You're
Mhm,
going to have to step out of what you perceive is perfection and
mhm,
stop thinking that you're supposed to be this perfect person that never fucks up, that never does anything wrong, that never is going to make a decision that actually didn't make sense. Like,
mhm,
you have to surrender to everything. There's going to be plenty of times moving forward, as well as plenty of times that I've already done where I've hurt people and that wasn't my intention. But
mhm,
then through that experience, they're able to now vocalize how I hurt them, and then now I'm able to break it down and be like, okay, so if I hurt this person in this way, what led me to that? What emotional capacity within me, what mental capacity within me was unaware of this thing that I led myself to being able to do something that potentially hurt somebody that I didn't want to hurt, or doing something that I didn't even know was wrong because I was never put in that position before.
right. That's a big one for me. Like it seems like I mean, I'm grown, so you would think I got some common sense, and every now and again, my inner child will come out, and I'll do something like just don't ignore that. That's me being a kid for a moment. Don't even.
Don't even worry about it. So yeah, that's why, again, coming back to how we even started this whole thing, right?
Mhm,
Um, when it came down to the angles and identity, how much do you truly believe in the things that you stand for or believe in? So again, it's very important that you go back and you look at the things that what the belief system that you've even created for yourself, and
mhm,
try to find the flaws in that.
right,
Because I bet you most of the time, everyone creates a belief system that is supposed to be perfection. You don't create your belief system from the space of being a human. That means you messing up, you doing some shitty stuff sometimes, you
mhm,
saying something that might hurt somebody. Like, that's life. Like, that's a part of life, and we all need that. Like, I need you to say something that's gonna hurt me. I need you to say something, to do something that's going to hurt me, because it's gonna help me expand. It's going to help me expand in many ways. I will be
mhm,
able to spiritually grow. I'll be able to mentally grow. I'll be able to physically grow. I'll be able to emotionally grow, because now I had something that put me in an uncomfortable position to learn
mhm,
something new about myself, or learn about a new perspective, or again, what we said earlier, I needed you to hurt me so that I could see a part of me that was led, or a trauma that happened to me that I forgot about, and needed you to bring that up by doing exactly what you just did to me, and vice versa. I need to do certain things to people because it's going to help them remember something else that they needed to heal that they couldn't think of at the point.
or grow in the moment where where you may be enabling a chance for a decline.
Exactly.
Oh, yes.
Exactly. So yeah, with that, I know we kind of kept moving around the topic a little bit, but I feel like we can start getting into the questions now. Whatever questions you might have had, if you had anything else that you didn't ask.
Mm, well, no, that was like I asked one of them, and then the other one, I lost it, to be honest. I was just hoping for, I really didn't want to list it because I love those raw, just how it's going to go, and then especially coming in late.
Yeah, which I feel like we've been really handling very well. Like, I really love how all the conversations went and how everything just layered on top of each other. Um,
Mhm.
I did have two questions that is
Okay.
going to be for, it can be both of us as well as whoever is tuned in with us right now.
Mhm.
The first question that I want you guys to answer is, how does challenges make you feel? It doesn't have to be anything specific, but in general, how does, just when you even think about the word challenge or anything that just challenges you, how does challenge usually make you feel? What is the first reaction that you have when a challenge comes
Mm, I'm gonna say excitement and anxiety.
up? Okay, that's very interesting.
Um,
Anxiety and excitement. That makes me think that you're just like me, somebody who loves challenges. So it's like, yeah, I'm excited, but then part of me is like, all right, but what am I about to learn? Yeah,
yeah.
because I definitely feel like I'm the same way. Like a part of me, depending on what the challenge is, either or it comes up to the front.
Mhm.
So either the excitement comes to the front and the anxiety is in my subconscious or in my body, and I'm like, or it's the opposite where the anxiety comes first, but in the back of my head, I'm like, yes,
Right.
my edge.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, we got first reaction is magnetism to ground, and most times it works, but then the frustration comes. So
Mm,
the reason why I asked this question today is because with the theme of lessons that we are experiencing being angles and identity, I
mhm,
think it's very important that we start to identify how we respond and how we react to challenges because that will help us start to figure out how we identify and if we are reacting to challenges through trauma or through who we actually know we are.
right.
So, for example, your first reaction is magnetism and to ground, right? So the first aspect of you knows that there's something here that is about to help you expand, help you flourish. So you're like, all right, let me get into it, right? But then you said you go into frustration. So just out of general understanding, I would think that you go from being grounded into frustration because you are alchemizing,
Mm,
right? Because you accepted it, you surrendered to it, and then now you are feeling emotion. Now you have a seat at the table and you are ready to dive deep. So it is very powerful for you to feel frustration after a challenge because it is helping you expand. That tension, that resistance, that is about to push you to your breakthrough. And it's
mm.
okay if you're not accepting the emotion because you're still feeling an emotion. The emotion being frustration.
For some reason, that product, can you operate from your element? Like, can your element be the reason why you respond in certain ways? Because I don't know why the way that was the way the response was, but for some reason it came up like a fiery response. So I'm wondering how, like, could that help you to be, to meet the challenge with full force, knowing and
Mm-hmm.
operating from your elemental
Yes.
space?
And that's why I said it's powerful that frustration was the next emotion
Mm-hmm.
because that frustration gives me Taurus, right? That bull trying to like, push his way out or try to get the target, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you feel frustration, you got to break it down, right? Why are you feeling frustrated? What is the emotion behind it? What is your subconscious trying to trick you into so that you can actually learn the lesson? But I feel like because I personally welcome negative emotions or what is perceived as negative emotions when we experience challenges because if you constantly respond to challenge from a positive place, You may not always learn all the lessons.
Mhm.
You may not be able to go do the healing in layers, because when you always are strong and powerful and clarity,
Mhm.
you're gonna miss stuff sometimes. You
And then
still
that means you're
need
not
duality.
optimizing all that energy.
Yeah, you still need that duality. So
Mhm.
I would say embrace that frustration and learn how to break it down so that you can start to now experience the emotion. But to me personally, frustration is an emotion. So if you feel like you're not accepting the emotion, is because you're not allowing yourself to go deep enough.
Mhm.
Like you within yourself are still staying on a surface level. And for some of us, that can be confusing because sometimes surface level can get deep for some people.
Mhm.
Whereas for some people, surface level is a lot smaller, and that's all because we all carry different densities and we all carry different levels of energy.
Mhm.
So if you know, um, not to shade anybody, but if you know you are somebody who probably has a smaller amount of energy, then your surface level probably looks like this. So it's real easy for you to like kind of break through that and then get to the deeper of what's happening. But if
Mhm.
you're a more, elevated person and you have all this energy to work with, your surface level might be this big.
Oh, real quick, that goes back to the healing in layers in people who deal with ADHD. I know that you always have to definitely go into your to get mental help if you're dealing with something like that or
Mm,
any mental disorder or illness. But with the holistic perspective, people with ADHD work with so much energy that they have. If you can actually get someone to calm down in that space, they can immediately do a whole 360 within a scenario.
hmm
It's not, I don't know why
No, but
that
that's basically along the lines of why I even brought up that analogy, because healing is so generalized that
mhm,
we don't observe ourselves enough to even
mhm,
know what our layers look like.
right.
So, like me personally, I know my surface level is this big.
Mhm,
So, it takes me a minute to get to the deep side
mhm,
and to be able to break through all those things that's at the top so that I can get to the actual issue, the actual problem, the actual concern. And for that, that's why I said sometimes I do get stuck because my surface level is this big.
mhm,
So then I end up again fighting myself or uh, going the wrong way, not actually solving the problem and going the wrong way, and then getting frustrated with myself. But then that frustration, once I get into that state of frustration, I don't necessarily try to act on it, but by myself, I mentally act on it. So I'll be like, okay, if I'm really frustrated and I really feel like this is what's happening, now if I did do what the frustration is telling me to do, what happens next?
mhm,
And then based on whatever simulation scenario I come up with, that actually helps me relieve some of that emotion so that now I'm able to take a step back and then be like, okay, now from higher perspective,
mhm,
what was this frustration and this experience trying to show me? What emotion was this experience trying to show me? And how can I bring this back down to like my healing?
mhm. How do you think that that's helped you create? In a lot of ways, I'm learning that that's a process I go through. Like if it's something like where I'm frustrated, I use it in a way that's actually, actually targeting that energy into another, honestly, like a canal space.
Yeah. And
For
that's another thing. When you have a big energy, you're gonna have to practice with using other outlets to
mhm,
figure out your path and how and your routine and what you need to
mhm,
get to your depth. When you have a bigger energy, you can expect to get to things the way other people get to it that have a smaller capacity because they don't need all these outlets. They'll be able to just get to it. But when
mhm,
you have all these depths, you have like a whole ocean of a surface level before you actually get to the bottom, then you have to work on it until you like, okay, basically when you have that much energy, your deep dive into your own surface level would probably be more like a submarine. It'll be a slow experience to get through it.
Hmm.
But eventually, the more you work through it and you start to learn your keywords or your key triggers to get you to that place, your submarine will turn into a UFO, and you'll
Hmm.
be able to go zoom through it instead of submarine through it.
That makes
Right?
sense. Yeah.
So it's very important to learn yourself, learn your process, learn how you deal with things, and accept that. Have patience with that, and know that it'll just take time to get to a point where you can navigate through it faster. But until you get there, you're gonna have to do a lot of trial and error. And then said I immediately be like, dang, another one. Once I'm aware of what is happening, the frustration goes away. So that's another thing there too. When the challenges come up and you get frustrated, how long you stay in that emotion of frustration depends on how long it takes you to surrender.
Hmm. Well, that makes absolute sense. That probably even goes back to what we was talking about before, and possibly experiencing a little bit of frustration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's one of the ways that I've been finally finding the means to get through my frustration faster. Is
Mhm.
I finally took accountability and said, I've been being stubborn and I don't allow myself to just surrender. I give myself this whole runaround before I feel like I could surrender. And it became a routine. It's like, okay, something bad happened. All right, now I gotta do all these things. I gotta say all these things, do all these things first before I can just be like, you know what, all right, fine, this happened, and now I just gotta figure out why it happened, how to get through it, etc. And then
Right.
just give into it.
Wow, it's all a process.
Right. But also, like, we have to get more open minded too. When these cycles come up, let's not be like, dang, another one, because then you're again putting your intention into the wrong place. When we want it to be in a more proactive place, where it's like, oh, another one, let's get it. Let's learn this new lesson. Let's upgrade. Let's expand. Like, stop looking at your cycles and your trauma like it's the end of the world. Even if it gives you anxiety, you have to surrender and get happy. Because now you are given another way to be more powerful, another way to have another breakthrough, another way to really let go and expand.
Right. That's
You were
absolutely.
given another opportunity.
That's exactly why I like the idea of having tough conversations. I didn't before. I couldn't when I was a little bit younger. I could not stand it. Like you couldn't even come at me with a, oh, you know, like I'm closed off. Don't want to hear it. And now I'm like I crave it. I love that the rawness and the reality that comes with having those
Mm,
much needed conversations because in
right.
actuality it's going to help both of us to grow regardless if we even had anything to do with it or not. It's
Mm-hmm.
can help that whole sense of progression to evolve into what it needs to be. So I love it. That's like
Exactly.
one of my challenges.
Exactly. Okay, now the last question that I have was, how are you choosing to identify yourself right now? And does that identity align with your purpose? And this is again to anybody in the chat that wants to openly speak about it as well. Again, how are you choosing to identify right now in this moment? Who are you right now in this moment? And does whatever comes up, whatever you see, I want you to also process that and ask yourself, does that actually align with who I know myself to be? Or again, am I choosing to identify as my trauma. And for me personally,
Mm-hmm.
um, I right now identify as somebody who had all these gifts and went through all of these trials and tribulations, and I decided to turn my gifts off. And so I no longer believe in myself as far as like my gifts and my ability to do certain things. Therefore, I'm constantly in a state of imposter syndrome because I continue to choose to identify with a version of me that was just hurt by a lot of people and chose to run away from something that was actually very powerful and very spot on, but that doesn't align with who I know I actually am, which is somebody that, whether I turn it on or off, am very tuned in, very powerful, very much who I say I am, and was very much gaslit and projected on. Therefore, I have been living through my trauma and not living as who I am. And what I had wrote down as far as how to get to the solution is the what is the root experiences that causes you to choose those identities that don't align with what you prefer. So it's like I chose to align with that trauma because I was scared of my potential. I was scared of my power. I was scared of the fact that I was that telepathic that I could call somebody out on some shit to the point that they tense up and then try to tell me that I'm just being a messed up person.
Well,
But that is not who I am. That's not who I ever been. I'm just really that powerful, really that telepathic, really that tuned in, and
mm-hmm.
I'm going to and am currently choosing to just re-become who I am, and not even make myself feel like I have to go through a process because I never stopped being that person. I just only created the blockages and told myself that I can't pick up things, I can't read people, or I can't do stuff. But then when I'm in the moment to do so, I have no problem with actually reading somebody in a situation. So clearly, I don't need to go through any process to get back to it. I still am that. But I'm just choosing to perceive myself from that trauma. But I no longer choose to identify that, and I'm choosing to just be who I am, which is open, tapped in, clear, psychic, powerful, all of that. I don't have to go through a process. Only I'm telling myself I need to go through a process because it makes it easier.
Right, it's more palatable.
It makes it easier to prolong me just re
Mm-hmm.
becoming my power, reinstating who I am. So so this is also part of why I wanted to even do this live stream today because I really wanted to stop doing things from that place and do it because I know I have something good to say. I know I have something powerful to offer, and I no longer want to keep living in that imposter syndrome when that's not my truth and that's just a trauma response.
Wow, I resonate with that, but I feel like I'm in like a middle space of that. Like, I mean, you're still kind of the same thing. Of I guess I could piggyback off of that. Although I wasn't aware of any gifts, like they're being revealed to me simultaneously, so I didn't really understand that that's like I always, at the end of the day, even as a kid, I always knew that there was something different, that there was something extra to myself, to the world, all that beautiful stuff, but learning how to operate as such
Right,
and separate from the ideals others have put on me, moving how others perceive me, that whole imposter vibe. I'm like, I'm fighting to let that go. Like, there's literally this gnawing feeling in the inside of my vessel. Like it's not even like it's in the
Let's
pit.
just let it
Like it's
go
ready
right
to
now. We
explode.
here right now. Let's just let it go right now. You don't need
Right,
a process because you are already that person.
right. Okay. Oh, it was crazy. I'm like, it's nuts because right when you were speaking, goosebumps, and then I got a message. I'm like, it's like we on the right track.
But yeah,
Right.
man, like just say even no to that process. You're already who you are. You don't need to go through a process to remember that or to become it again. You already are that person.
I've already been that. I've already. This is me. I've already been doing that. It's
Right.
not
So let go of the ego aspect of you that is trying to create all these delays when
mhm.
you already are that person.
It's your ego's definitely. I don't know. Just dealing with the ego. It's funny because it can be your friend, but your worst enemy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you don't know how to operate with it.
Right.
Oh, I'm like I'm
I
processing it.
feel so much lighter. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling amazing. Even with being late, I'm like it's still well properly in place in alignment.
You was right on time.
Right? Man.
But I kind of needed it to play out the way that it did though, because it did something for me that I needed confirmation within myself for. So
Mm-hmm.
it's good. You did exactly what you needed to do.
Same.
Yes. So I would say let's if anybody has any questions or anything that they wanted to share, let this be like a last call for that because I do want spirit is nudging me to now do the sound bowls. Um, so yeah, if you guys have any last questions that we can get into or things that y'all need advice on or whatever the case is, let this be the last call for y'all to do that, as well as settle if you had any questions or anything that might have come up with the last couple of things that we talked about. Let's definitely dive into them because I'm feeling definitely feeling it's time to bring bowls in.
Now I'm centered within it as well.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I feel really good. Like I feel like I really released something and like I don't know, like everything just feel real smooth. Like
Right, especially in here. For some reason, I'm not gonna lie. No, I know for a fact my throat chakra has been on lock for a second.
yeah,
But for some reason, all of this felt just like I literally just felt this as we were.
yeah. And then for the little bubbles for the names, I was going to change the color, but something told me to leave it blue.
And that's the one I resonate with.
But yeah, um, don't seem like y'all have any more questions. I don't think. Um, so I think I'll just move into the sound bowls. If there is anything that comes up while doing the bowls, we could for sure just dive into them after the fact. But at this time, I would like for y'all to just start getting comfortable and preparing for these energies, these sounds, so we can get y'all right, get y'all some good grounding, some good energy. So just start setting your intention for whatever you are ready to let go of today, right now. Like we are not prolonging this. You letting it go right now. Whatever blockage that you think you have is just a thought at this point. Let these synchronizations of these universal sounds literally vibrate out of you all your blockages and everything that has been holding y'all back from just feeling that fulfillment, feeling one with yourself, getting rid of any doubt, any concerns, any anxieties, because those are just paths to your true self,
Mhm.
but you still have the ability to just get there instantaneously. And yes, those cycles and those healings will still come up, but you will be dealing with them from a better space, from a higher space, and a more faster place, because you would have dealt with the majority of whatever was holding you back from being able to do that. But know that it is finally time for whoever sees this in the recorded version, or whoever is here now, like, you have the ability to be free right now. All it takes is a decision. You have the ability to resolve everything right now. All it takes is a belief. So I hope that y'all all choose well, and you choose to let go, and again surrender, because that has been the main thing that has come up today as far as what the solutions are to all the things that we discussed today, which was surrendering, which was um, again being honest with self,
Mm-hmm.
and just letting things be, because we are already abundant, we already have everything that we need, all of our problems are necessary, so you got to stop fighting it. Stop fighting your problems. Like, we need everything, and without the opposition, the opposite wouldn't even matter. It wouldn't exist. So learn to love everything. Learn to love all of you. This is the time to do it, because we are finally exiting out of that heavy energy. Like, we are finally closing that up. The more we get into springtime, we are closing it up, and that's why things feel the heaviest that it does right now, because we are literally at the cusp of being on the other side of just like activations, and feeling that serenity, feeling that completion energy. But again, this is why the pressure is so heavy right now, because we're literally about to cut out.
That birthing process, and literally that's literally all I picture is the fact that you're going through the cusp of
Mm-hmm.
now like the rebirth,
Yes.
because this is your birth, you're giving life to the true you. So it doesn't, I know that people like to use the term rebirth, but no, you're being born. I mean, that's honestly how I perceive it. So,
Yeah. So yeah, get in y'all meditative positions, and we're about to get into it.
Wow. Thank you for that. That was amazing. Like I could, like it was all over the place. But then there was this pulling, like in certain areas in my left arm, the right side of, I want to say solar plexus.
Hmm.
And then it was weird because I had to stop for a minute and got up, and I felt so off balance because I had to, Oh my god, that was weird. I've never experienced that. But that was interesting. Wow.
Yes, yes. Let me know how y'all feeling in the chats. Said I felt it in my heart. I started getting choked up a little bit, just a little bit,
Right,
just
just
a little bit.
it's weird because I felt it, but then I smiled after. So then it'd be like a whole waterworks moment for the thing to come out like that.
Yes, because I feel like because we set the intentions to just really let go. That even if things came up, y'all were able to just transmute it, just look past it, and just be like, you know what, we good, we good. And she said, definitely have a cheesy smile right now. Yes, let me know how y'all are feeling. Do you feel like y'all released anything?
Mm-hmm.
Again,
I
whatever
definitely
commentary that y'all got.
definitely feel sense of relief.
Ooh, this is interesting. My beings didn't let me feel the chakras and went straight to the body, and I felt a release in my left foot, which is the stomach area in reflexology. So that's very powerful because I feel like whatever you came into this live with, you are leaving with it pretty much opened up. Like you helped yourself release whatever it was that might hold you back a little bit. My mind definitely leveled. I stopped attempting to interpretate the birds, the grass, the trees, and experienced it for what it was, just nature. Yes. And maybe that is also part of why you might feel like you're stuck in the head more because you probably need to balance just feeling sometimes and not needing to interpretate what everything means and what all the signs and messages and everything means. Because to me, it sounds like you're helping yourself move back into that emotional flow state. Very powerful. Very very powerful. But
You're
definitely wanted to
definitely
bring this one back up too.
I
But
feel
yes,
like some of us who have those grudges, like if you notice, a lot of us are having those little blockages that once you remove them, the ascension's gonna be crazy.
yeah.
Like all at once type of thing. Like I'm gonna see you at the finish line.
Basically, like that's really the energy that I'm getting. Like I really feel like again, whoever showed up to this and whoever is catching this as a recording, like it's really up from here. I hope y'all know that, like wholeheartedly, because we really went into the depths of what we all have been struggling with, and really just allowing ourselves to be open, honest, and really look that sucker in the face. So much gratitude for y'all even showing up today, and I really genuinely hope everybody gets something moving from watching this and experiencing this live.
I was saying,
This live
yeah.
was amazing and definitely your niche. Keep it going. Gratitude for you showing up.
Yes, I was definitely gonna ask if you plan to have this as a continuing
I had a thought. I had a thought to potentially do this every Monday.
Yes, that would be awesome. Really tap in if
Yeah,
you
like
ever.
I might alter. Yeah, like I think I definitely want to start doing this every week for surely. Um, and I don't know why, but I kind of feel like every Monday because I feel like everybody hates Mondays,
That
so I
motivation
feel like I
month,
want to combat that. I want to combat that.
right? It's kind of like that's wow. When you just said that, releasing that anxiety moving into the week.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting. That's definitely true. That's definitely true. Yes. And yes, Moon Day. So it's definitely a good time to do some powerful spiritual work on Moon Day, emotional day. I love how there's so many resources to tap into throughout the week from Tribe. Yeah, that's why I'm like, since I know like a lot of the other stuff is over the weekend time, that I feel like Monday, um, yeah, I feel like Monday, maybe even sometimes Tuesday, I might pull in and do something. So we could kind of just have like something throughout the week at this point. Like y'all gonna have a little bit of something every day that y'all can tap into and just have like consistency as far as like how y'all are being guided and supported throughout this journey. Very surely.
That's awesome. That's especially because right now a lot of us are still questioning having that space to kind of
Right.
refer to, and the consistency is going to help so much. And to be honest, it's inspiring me to even, or motivating me more to like, I've been trying to reroute how I'm doing things so that I can show up a little more. I want to
Oh no, we lost her. But yes, I'm with it too. Like, my recent revelation was like, um, I really want to start kind of doing this more and bringing different people on because I definitely am always in conversation with some really powerful people that I really appreciate their opinions and definitely want to start utilizing my space more for hosting things like that. And not just only doing it on TikTok, but kind of bringing this onto YouTube as well as other platforms, um, so that we can broaden that outreach and whatnot. So definitely very excited about this. Like I definitely think I want to do this every week. Um, so yeah, if anybody wants to participate, definitely inbox me. Let me know, either here or on Instagram, TikTok, doesn't matter. Um, Nefer Soul is all my social handles. Just shoot me a message. So we could talk about getting you up here. I definitely would come down to come up and would have came up with somebody's gonna be. Oh no, you're good. You're good. I'm just glad that you were able to be here and hopefully gained some things. Hopefully gained some things from this live. I know it was a little long. Um, definitely a little long, but um, definitely feel like every aspect of it was very necessary though. Um, so yeah, again, just much gratitude to everybody um, who showed up for themselves today. Congratulations on doing that. Y'all are very powerful and amazing. Um, Definitely, like hit the like button, share this live whenever we can. Um, I'm going to have to figure that out after the fact because I just started up this StreamYard and I don't know how it's going to redirect me after. This is my first time using it, so hopefully it doesn't give me any problems to save this to my YouTube because I won't be able to save this to my my StreamYard. So definitely hope that works out great. But yeah, I'm definitely trying to give it a moment to see if she's able to get back on because I'm not sure if her phone died or what. But yeah, if y'all have any more questions, feel free to drop them down before we head on off out of here. Okay, it should upload on YouTube. Okay, cool. Alright. If we lose it, it just is what it is. We just gonna have to run it back again. It's all good. But yeah, so I definitely appreciate y'all 1,000% for tuning in today. Um, I don't know why it feels like a new thing, even though I go live on TikTok every day. But I think maybe because I haven't used my YouTube in this way, so it feels new. It feels brand new. It feels beautiful. And yeah, I really hope that y'all got everything that you needed today and more. Feel free to run back this stream again because we did drop a lot of gems and a lot of perspectives and a lot of different things that I definitely feel like even I want to run back and listen to again. Um, I guess much gratitude for y'all tuning in. Again, know that y'all are powerful. Y'all are extraordinary. Um, you always have everything that you need to excel, and you just need to believe in yourself. That is all that is needed. And yeah, I appreciate y'all. And I think we're going to cut it off here. Make sure that y'all follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, whatever you got. I got it at Never Soul, right, right there. As well as I do readings, I do energy healing, I make crystal jewelry, I host spiritual retreats, as well as I have a meditation ebook that is out on my website right now, Knispo.info. The website is on my link tree. The link is on my YouTube as well as it is going to be in the description. Um, and I'm working on getting the physical copies. I'm just waiting for the first one to get on over here so that I can just make sure that everything is up to par, and then I will shortly be releasing the physical copies. But if you are cool with getting the ebook first, it is available on my website again, nispo.info, KNISPO.info. As well as it's available on Kindle and Nook, as well as many other places as well. So I would write it somewhere. Oh wait, I can't do that. It's right here. Duh, I forgot. So boom. So yes, this is my website, y'all. Um, you can head right over there to get any of the things that I've mentioned. Um, definitely book with me because I have a very versatile perspective to offer. And I'm just a regular person, so I don't hit y'all with the extra anything like realist healing session that y'all would experience. And we are sold out in this retreat for August, so there will be future ones coming up, so definitely be on the lookout for that. And yeah, get used to seeing my face because we definitely gonna be doing this more often. And yeah, I appreciate y'all. I hope that this also gave y'all a great start to your week. And I will catch y'all next time. Peace, y'all.